What gets you moving?
Because when you get moving an hour a day,
You'll have the energy to skate through anything. So whether you like to work the half pipe,
Kick the soccer ball around.
or ride your bike.
carve out some time every day to get moving.
But do it your way.
Because it can be whatever you want it to be.
Just get active. Ramp it up.
Move it your way and be a player.
Get up and play an hour a day, Doc.
Check out how to be a player at letsmove.gov.
Head online to get tips on great ways to get moving every day.
That's www.letsmove.gov.
Welcome to this edition of Lancaster Perspective. I'm Mike Miller, and my special guest today, the Lancaster City Parks Superintendent, Mitch Overton. Welcome, Mitch.
Thanks, Mike.
How you doing, buddy?
Very good, very good. Thanks for having me.
I know you've been a busy man.
Yeah, there's always a lot of things going on in the City Parks Department.
We have a levy coming up, issue 1. We're going to talk about a little bit later on in the program.
Okay.
But let's talk a little bit about the number of parks, some of the facilities.
Sure.
Things are going on in the parks program.
Right. Well, we currently have 27 different facilities within the department, 25 which are fully developed. So we have a couple of them sitting out there yet to develop. And of course, this started in 1909 from the gift from Philip and Carrie Rising with Rising Park. That was actually December 1908. And then in 1909, when that was accepted by City Council, that was the genesis of creating a City Parks Department. So from that gift, they then hired a superintendent, rolled in Zane Square, which we still have downtown today, which is a Veterans Bandstand and the Fountain, and Firehouse Park. And those 3 parks were our first Parks Department.
I didn't know the Firehouse Park was one of the first.
Yes, yes, it was. That was just prior to that. That was the original cemetery in the city, and then. In 1909, we had those 3 facilities, and that gift from Philip and Carrie Rising really started a long legacy in this city. And as you know, in 2009, we did our centennial celebration.
Remember that. Great event.
And that started a great legacy for our city of individuals caring about public open space, about access to everyone, regardless of their ability to afford recreational opportunities. This gave everyone the same type of access to facilities and programs. And that you can fast forward to today to where you now have the 27 different facilities, which again, the vast majority of those have been gifted to the city. And we just try to continue that tradition.
Right. Now, you're a Lancaster graduate.
Correct.
And,
Lancaster High School.
Spent some time in West Virginia. And
yes, sir.
Got a couple degrees down at West Virginia University. Right?
Ohio University.
Ohio University.
Yes.
The Ohio University.
Correct.
That would be the Harvard on the hockey.
Harvard on the hockey. That's right.
And then worked in West Virginia for a little bit and came back. And you've been the park superintendent for 5 years.
Correct.
And I know you've had a lot of vision, a lot of different things going on. Talk a little bit about some of the things that you brought with you to the Lancaster Parks.
Well, I brought a couple of different perspectives, I think. As you mentioned, I did go to graduate school for Park and Recreation Administration. I went down to West Virginia and worked in the private industry, in the private recreation business as an operations manager, so I got that end of the experience. Then moved into state parks and management there on the state park system, and brought that with me. So I had some interesting experiences to bring, but Lancaster Parks did fit well, particularly into the state parks model because of the amount of property that we have. Right. And we do have a lot of focus on outdoor recreation. And that fit very well. And I think from seeing operations in the private sector, and then on a larger scale on the state segment, that allowed me to bring in a lot of allowed me to sort of professionalize to a large degree our outfit and bring a lot of those elements in that had been done again in a private sector. You're really watching, you're really crunching numbers, and you're really concerned about every minute detail. And then in the states segment, you've got a lot of policy and procedure that is uniform throughout. And so to be able to bring those aspects here with me, I think that was something that was able to benefit our department, and again, professionalize the department to a large degree.
Now, there's a lot of great programs going on in the Parks Department, a lot of great activities. Friday night bandstands,
correct,
is a big thing. Olivedale is huge. Just talk about some of the influence that those programs have.
Well, those programs, Mike, are to a large degree what makes Lancaster a nice place to live, a nice place to work, to own a business, to retire, to raise a family.
Sure.
These are the types of facilities and programs that make Lancaster a more marketable community. And then this bleeds into economic development. Okay, so the more that people enjoy being here in Lancaster and want to stay here, and the more appealing it is for people to move here, the more appealing it is to businesses to move here. It's easier to do hiring campaigns, for example, when you have a nice quality of life.
Sure.
This is really a large part of what we focus on. What we really started focusing on in a big way 5 years ago was let's build up our facilities that we've had for so long, as we mentioned in the beginning, since 1909. So it's time to give a lot of those attention. Let's expand our programs to make it very family friendly and something for everyone, and to make the community as marketable as possible and as a nice a place to live as can be. And again, I feel like this stuff bleeds in so much into economic development of the city that you can see it's just a snowball, and it's a major ingredient of the recipe.
Absolutely. We're talking with Mitch Overton, the Park Superintendent for the City of Lancaster. I know that you probably get a lot of suggestions from people.
Sure.
Gee,
yeah.
Why don't we have this? Why don't we have that?
Right.
Is that something you filter through your staff, or you just go home at night and say, might work, might not work?
We really like suggestions like that come from the public. We're here to serve the community, and when we get input from citizens or community members, we can take that, and depending on how often we hear these things, that can enlighten us to a certain degree, that says, hey, there may be something that we have that needs altered, might not be serving the citizens to its best degree, or that we don't have a facility or a program to meet the needs of some of our constituents. So let's do that. And that's exactly what we try to do. And Mike, that is often how things get started, when people come up with some ideas and they want to see something, and if it's enough people get together,
you can do it.
Then we say, hey, let's meet the needs of the citizens and see if we can't do this.
One of the projects that's ongoing is the bike trail.
Correct.
And more and more people talk about the bike trail.
Yeah.
Talk about it, where it goes to, how far it is. Those
Sure,
kind of things.
sure. Bike trail's been an ongoing project here since about 2005, as far as the construction started then. It's gone through 4 different phases now. We're still in the 4th phase of this. The actual trailhead of the bike trail begins at OUL over on College Avenue. Now you can access the bike trail in many, many different locations around the city. We're currently at about almost 7.5 miles, so 7.4 miles right now. And by the completion of phase 4, we'll be over 9. So we'll be about 9.2 miles at that completion. So if you took it from the trailhead, so to speak, or whether you can take it at OUL,
right.
You would come down Arbor Valley by the high school, and so again there you access the the high school.
Right.
And then you go to Fair, you can access Thomas Ewing. You cross Fair at a crosswalk, go down the creek there to Boyd Street, and you cross into Lanrico Park. Go around Lanrico Park, cross over by Kroger's, go by Kroger's, underneath Main Street, and you access Mary Burnham Park, which we used to call Cherry Street Park.
Right.
You go and you cross Lawrence Avenue and take a nice remote section, very pretty section there, and take it all the way to Cincy Lake Park. From Cincy Lake Park, it goes continuous over to Olivedale Senior Center. Goes again underneath 22 at that point into Hunter Park. Follows Hunter's Run over to the back of Mary Burnham Park, and then crosses Cedar Hill. I'm sorry, Martin's Park. Sorry about that.
Martin's Park.
I said Mary Burnham. Hits Martin's Park, which is our girls softball facility.
Right.
Crosses Cedar Hill Road to West Main. You follow that down to Miller Park, and there's a spur there from Miller Park to access Sherman, General Sherman Middle School. You go through Miller Park, cross 6th, and then follow the Hocking River over to where we have a bridge that accesses Carnival Foods.
Right.
And that's where we're continuing from that point there. We're going to link up to Hocking Park from there, and to the newly restored wetlands behind Target area, and then take it all the way to Edie Road, and cross Edie Road. We'll hook up with another some more acreage that we have out there on off of Edie Road, which will be called I.J. Collins Park. So you can see what a lot of what I'm mentioning here to you, Mike, is that you can access schools, places of business, such as the stores that I mentioned, and parks. And you do a lot of this in a nice protected area, the crosswalks, etc. And these things give people the opportunity for activity. Okay, so be it an alternative means of transportation. You don't have to take your car now to go to the grocery store, for example, or to the coffee shop, what have you, to the park, to school, or a means for recreating. So do you want to walk the dog? Do you want to push the stroller? Or do you want to ride your rollerblades? You ride your bicycle? That kind of thing. And as you mentioned, bike trails are highly sought after, and again, one of these things that make our community very marketable. And I should say before you move off here to give some credit to a lot of departments in the city have been
that's
involved.
a joint effort to do that.
It really is. It's been a fantastic joint effort. Through the city law department, working with easements and rights of ways, the language for our grants. This has all been grant funded as well. To our street department, working with paving techniques, et cetera, to engineering with design of the trail, stormwater. So a lot of city departments have been involved in this because, again, it's for the greater good of the community in the city.
And is there any truth that you run that every night? You jog through that every night?
I don't, unfortunately. I get on it as often as I can. My kids love to be out on there, and so we do use it, and we like it being close to home. But I'm not physically running it every single night. No.
Somebody asked me that, and I said I'll ask him. I'm going to see him tomorrow. I'll just see what he says. There's just so many activities going on in the Parks Department and all the facilities, and it does take quite a bit to operate those. And I know you have a great staff that does it, and we do have a levy coming up on March 6th. It's issue 1.
Correct.
It's a 5-year levy. It's a renewal levy. It's not a new levy.
That's right.
Talk a little bit about that and some of the funding for the Parks Department.
Sure. The levy came about and first passed in 1987, and that came about from a reduction in funding from the city's general fund. So we were again at a thin time there in the city budget, and I don't have any any issues at all that this occurs, and it's a natural occurrence when things get really, really tight. You've got to draw off of the things that maybe you could that are a little more for pleasure, and kind of make sure you have some of your really important things funded. Although I think that, of course, the parks are very important, as I mentioned to you, to economic development and quality of life and having people to move here. But nonetheless, I realize the tough decisions that many of our city administrators are faced with when they're faced with, can we keep the water running and the lights running on the streets and stop signs up, or do we fund new benches and playgrounds? So those are tough decisions, and I can respect those. So when the funding started to dwindle there in the mid-'80s, we had a time there where we couldn't open the pools, we couldn't mow all the parks. We had a group called the Friends of Lancaster Parks and Recreation get together to do
and that's still in existence too.
Definitely a great group of volunteers that really just care about making Lancaster a nicer place to live. It's a nonprofit organization, a 501c3 charitable organization that helps to take care of our parks. It helped with some of the raise funds for things that the community would like to see that our operating budget doesn't allow for. So that levy passed in 1987. It's a 0.15% income tax levy. It's on residents only, so if you live within the city limits, and it's only on earned income. So meaning that it doesn't affect retirement income, Social Security, pensions, things along those lines. We started out on a 5-year levy, and we've done a renewal every 5 years on that and have not asked for any increases on that amount. Though you know how it goes over the years that we've seen essentially all the funding that was left, all the meat that was kind of left on the bone from the city's general fund diminish. We've been able to operate it still on that same levy amount, and this year 2012 is no different. It's times are tough for everyone else at home, and it's not the time to be asking anyone for an increase. The 0.15% on the renewal is an operating levy, Mike. So it is not a levy to do new builds, to do large-scale capital improvements. It allows for the operation of the department. So it pays for, again, normal operations. It's, the paint to line the soccer fields and the ball diamonds and the chemicals for the pools and to pay the lifeguards and to pay your heating bills and your electric bills and gas in the mowers and repairs, these kinds of things. It's operational funds, and it's literally a sustenance levy. It sustains the department and keeps it moving. And then our capital improvements we fund almost solely from grants and donations. So you've noticed, I'm sure, over the past 5 years, the amount of capital improvements that we've been able to do in the parks. You see a lot of new builds and new facilities. You mentioned the bike trail, and then their neighborhood parks. We've been focusing on those to a great deal. Picnic shelters, playground facilities, pedestrian bridges, the Cabinet Alley Park,
which is a great facility.
Lots of things like this that you've seen, and those are done almost solely with grant funds. So we really feel like we try to do a lot with a little. We're always trying to squeeze a $1.50 out of every buck, and provide the best we can for the community.
And I think it's important to point out, because some people don't realize that the Fairfield Historical Parks was a separate. This is completely different.
It's true.
And I think some people were putting them together, which is not true.
That is true. There was some confusion during that last campaign, which historical parks are great. We supported them. They had a great campaign. But because of the timeliness of it, it was very close to ours on that 5-year cycle. And there's bound to be some confusion, but because they're parks and we're parks, and there was some, but I think everyone did a good job of trying to educate people and differentiate between the two. I guess I'd point out some of the major differences is that the historical parks, of course, number one is county-wide, but two, the levy was in essence to really fund that department and to really create a department. They've got a lot of great facilities, but really didn't have that infrastructure for to have a full-fledged department. That has enabled them to begin to do this now, to create a department. The difference on your renewal for your city parks levy would be that it continues to keep the department operating. So it's not a new levy, it's not new money, it continues to keep it operating instead of funding a new department. It's again, a continuation and a renewal.
If anybody had any questions, website, phone number, I know you've got some literature that you brought with you today, but if anybody had any questions about the Parks Department or the levy itself? Definitely. We have a website, which is lancasterparks.com. It's very easy. It's got all kinds of great information on lancasterparks.com, a calendar of events. I often tell people to use that when they have visitors or in-laws or somebody like that's coming in town, and you can hit the calendar of events and see what kind of special events are coming up or things you might want to take people to. We're also on Facebook, obviously, under Lancaster Parks and Recreation. That's been a lot of fun for us and a great marketing tool. Do you like Facebook? Do you enjoy Facebook? I mean, I only use it for the department. I don't use it personally. I don't have a personal Facebook account. I haven't figured it out yet, so. But it's been great, a communication tool for us at the department, at the Parks Department. A great communication tool to update people about, programs, deadlines, bad, inclement weather or cancellations. A great tool, and just to remind people, hey, this is happening tonight, or the deadline is Friday for this. Great tool, and that's very easily found by just searching Lancaster Parks and Recreation on Facebook, and it comes up, and it's we're nearing 1,000 people that are following that, and watching it. Obviously, our main office is open 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. We always have somebody there, and that's at 1507 East Main Street. And then people can call us directly, always at 740-687-6651. Have you seen an increase of park activity? I know sometimes it goes up and down, but don't you see more and more families out using parks? Without a doubt, without a doubt. And you really hit the nail on the head when you said families. We've seen a great increase in the amount of families that want to do things together, not just dropping the kids off for a program, but that they want to stay with them and take part in it. The other segment of the population we're seeing an increase in are young professionals that maybe they don't have families, or maybe they're still single, or this kind of thing. And there's been a huge uptick in that population that want to do things like kickball or wiffle ball and these types of programs that again build community and foster it in that population. So both of those segments of the population we've seen a huge uptick in, and I feel really speaks well to building that sense of community. When you have young professionals that have things that they can do together and enjoy each other's company, it makes it more tight-knit, more close-knit, and they don't feel like they need to go to a bigger city to gain that experience. Likewise, your families, when they're working together, they feel like this is a nice place to raise a family, which Lancaster really is. And they can do these things together. And we've been altering a lot of our programming to fit those models, and as you've seen over the past 3 or 4 years, we've been doing that in a large way with things like the Friday night bandstand, making that very family friendly and targeted towards more of an audience that way. Likewise with our programs that we do as far as outdoor education, outdoor recreation, and a lot of these programs that we include the family members to come and stay and do it together. There were a couple new programs that we talked it's been a while. One was Picking in the Park, and the other was I want to say Fish Derby at Cincy Lake. That's correct, and those are some of the new programs that hit these populations. The Picking in the Park is a musical program that occurs
first and third Wednesdays at Alley Park at 7 o'clock. And it's an open jam for musicians to come and have a nice, clean environment to play music in. And that kind of gets into more of our adult programming, and we've expanded that to a great degree as well. And as you know, Mike, we've talked about for several years now, our target really is something for everyone. And you've got, this one area, your Lancaster Parks and Recreation Department, that is, your quality of life hub here. So for special events, free family events, programs, education, recreation, it's all in this one area. So Picking in the Park is one example. There's also things like Tai Chi, line dancing, these types of activities that are targeted at that population there. And then, what was the other one you mentioned?
Cincy Lake.
The fishing derby. Yeah. Right. So we did start the fishing derby a few years ago, which was really the brainchild of one of our Board of Park Commissioners, the ex-president, Jim Fox, and had this idea. And so I followed up on it. We created a partnership with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, and we coupled that up with a trout stocking at Cincy Lake. And so we do a trout stocking, and then we have a fishing derby that's educational. So it's a family activity. The ODNR is there. We do sort of a hooked on fishing program, teach kids about how to handle fish, how to bait your hook, tie a knot, get the fish off the line, etc. And really, Mike, get people interested, particularly the younger participants, in active, healthy endeavors, and that these are things that are fun. Get them outside, out of doors, and things they can do with mom and dad, uncle and aunt, grandma and grandpa, this kind of thing. And again, get them outside, and they don't even realize it, but they're learning. They have a greater appreciation for nature, and again, fosters that active, healthy lifestyle.
There's a brochure that's out. I don't know if we get a picture of this or not. This is fall and winter. And can anyone pick these up?
You bet. And they're on our website, Mike. So the brochure's right on the front page of our website, lancasterparks.com. And of course, they're around the city at different facilities and right at our main office. And if it's easiest, you can just drop us a line and we'll put it in the mail to you.
It's a great guide. It gives you all sorts of things and the times and destinations. There's a map in the middle of it.
Right.
I don't know if you get a picture of that. There's a map in it. It tells you all the different things that are going on. One of the other things that I wanted to talk about was that you have your own TV show.
We do.
Hometown Playground.
Right.
Talk a little about that.
Well, we've had a lot of fun with this. We started this last July and run a new episode every single month. It is called Hometown Playground. It airs right here on LSN, and it airs every weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's Friday evenings at 9, and then Saturdays and Sundays, 10:30 in the morning and 8 o'clock at night. We have a new episode every month. And there's several different segments to this show, but the main idea, Mike, is to tell people about what they can do right here in the city. And you've seen some of these episodes. I take part in a lot of different activities. We're just coming off of one about geocaching, for example, where I go with an expert in geocaching, and we get use the GPS, and we find the cache. And we literally, and this was, that was the first time I had gone to the cache and found that and done it, etc. And we filmed that, and so I literally take part in these things. In anything from disc golf to skateboarding to fishing to and all sorts of different activities.
I've seen a couple of the segments. I saw the tennis segment.
Tennis, right? Well, running. We did the bike trail and running. All kinds of different things. And that is the main segment of the show, and where that's truly educational segment that we teach people about the facilities you have here, how to use them, and go through a lot of the rules and give tips to enhance your experience. One of the funnest segments of the show, I think, that we have is the segment called Bust Busted at Play, where we have a couple of our gals from Alley Park, from our outdoor education staff, that run the city in a park van with yellow overhead lights, and they're busting people, anyone, kids, adults, that are out doing random acts of play. And again, you get into let's have a more active, healthy lifestyle, and that's largely what it's promoting. And again, what you can do here in the city, and it's again just if we do that, we all have a better appreciation for what we have here in our natural world and what we have here in the city.
Well, Mitch, we're just about out of time, but I do appreciate you coming in. Again, my guest today is Mitch Overton, the Director, Superintendent of the Lancaster City Parks. You can go to lancasterparks.com, check him out on Facebook, 687-6651.
Right.
There's an important levy coming up on March 6th. It's a 5-year renewal operations levy for the Parks Department.
Right.
Mitch, we do appreciate you coming in.
Thanks, Mike.
Enjoy the rest of the day. I know you're busy schedule today.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Again, we do appreciate you tuning in to this edition of Lancaster Perspective. Remember, get out and vote. And remember, if we meet again, let's make a difference.
There's a place, not so far away, a place where you don't have to keep the volume down. You'll find all sorts of creatures in this place without have to. The silly you, the proud you. You may even meet the curious you.
It's tickling me! You!
Ask your parents to take you to this not so far away place. Come to the forest, where the other you lives. But first, stop by discovertheforest.org.